time it is that you are tuning in. This is Unapologetically Me, featuring me. No special guest, just me. Like that? Switch it up on you, huh? See? You gotta keep coming back. You never know what you're gonna get. Okay, anyway, how are you guys? I hope that you're having a really good day. If you are one of my returning subscribers, then thank you so much. I really do appreciate you. You have no idea. If you are new here, hi. Nice to see you. You're wondering why I'm wearing a coat? I film out of my garage as of right now, and I might be taking this off, but as of right now, it's freezing in here. So, Jamie Lynn Spears and Britney Spears, the saga continues. So, it's funny because, Jamie Lynn Spears, on one hand, is trying to tell Britney she doesn't want to handle these things in public, yet on the other hand, she went and put out a book basically airing out all of Britney's dirty laundry and making her look crazy, which for how many years we have already kind of been led to believe that she's crazy and she's off the deep end and she needs a conservatorship in order to keep her in line. From a father who himself is an alcoholic and all over the place. And so anyway, we all know the story. I put out another video before, so you can check that out if you need to, whatever. I'm sure if you want to watch this, you've already watched Britney and Jamie Lynn videos, so I'm sure you guys all know what's going on. I'm just going to be talking about part 2 of the interview from the podcast, Call Her Daddy. So that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about now. Okay, so like I said, she goes out and puts out this book after saying that she doesn't want to do anything publicly because it's embarrassing. So's your book, sweetie. And also, she then decides to go on a podcast, not just any podcast, a very, very popular podcast that has a lot of viewers. And that podcast is called Call Her Daddy. So, this podcast is hosted by Alexandra Cooper, and the podcast is basically a relationship and sex advice podcast. So, why it has anything to do with her, I don't know, but she was given the platform. This podcast aims to empower women, as the title suggests, Call Her Daddy. The podcast, while extremely popular, has also been considered quite controversial in the past. And after allowing Jamie Lynn to have access to her platform, Alexandra Cooper has received a lot of pushback from fans. She's got a lot of pissed off people who are like, why did you give Jamie Lynn this platform? Why are you allowing her to continue and go on and exploit Britney, basically? And that's my opinion. But, so why would she, right? Well, 2 things have stood out about Alex Cooper. One is that she does not seem to ever have been part of the Free Britney movement. And 2, she's followed by Lou Taylor. A little bit sus, right? That would explain a bit. So let's get into the details of the actual interview. Let's get into the details of the interview. So it starts out with her talking about being pregnant and the family not wanting her to have her baby. She's 16. Of course, the family is kind of against her having the baby. But she's like, no, I'm having this baby. Screw you guys. And actually ends up emancipating herself. So she's 16 and pregnant. She's trying to get an emancipation so she can move away from her family and have her baby and not have to listen to them in her ear. And this is the same time that her dad goes and files for this conservatorship for Britney. So she's saying this is how she doesn't know about it. She was going through her own shit. She's 16 and pregnant. She's moving away. She's already freaking out about whatever. She's getting a lot of publicity at the same time for something that, she really doesn't want a lot of publicity for. And so she says this is what she didn't know anything about the conservatorship. She didn't know what it was about. And in my opinion, she didn't really care either because she's selfish. So, yes, she was going through shit. Yes, she was 16. And I understand at that point Okay, so fine. You didn't care. You were going through your own shit. Great. You're 16. You're still a kid having a kid. So she doesn't know what it's about. She doesn't really care. All I have to say, this interview, she seems so bitter. Like, so bitter. If you haven't watched it, I don't even suggest bothering to watch it. I'm basically going to wrap it up for you here. She just seems so bitter. Her face language, her body language, the way her attitude, her tone, everything just seems like she's just like pissed off that, she tried to put this book out and get all this poor me attention, and it's not turning out that way. And she just seems super resentful, bitter, and pissed the fuck off. Okay? So she says that when Britney finally opened up to her, was on a trip that they took together to Hawaii. She said that she gave her numbers and she even talked to Britney's lawyer, but all they did was end up blowing up in her face. Now, the lawyer that she's talking about was Britney's court-appointed conservatorship lawyer at the time, and his name was Sam Ingham. Now, if you know anything about Sam Ingham and how he handled this conservatorship with Britney, then you would know that he really mishandled the situation, and he really did Britney a disservice, to put it lightly. He was supposed to be taking care of her rights. He was a court-appointed lawyer. Yes, court-appointed, meaning the court gave her this lawyer. She wasn't even able to choose her own lawyer to handle this conservatorship. So he's supposed to be taking care of her rights, but anonymous sources have reported for a long time, however, that Sam Ingham seemed more loyal to the conservatorship and to Britney's father, Jamie Spears, instead of Britney. Now, Jamie Lynn talks about how she told Britney that, to her understanding of things, if Britney moved out of state for 6 months, the conservatorship would dissolve. I'm not sure where she got this idea. I'm not sure why she brought that up, but at the time that was her understanding. And so she also said she had she also said she has no idea why Britney never did this. She even offered Britney to come move in with her in her shithole in Louisiana, but she never did. Interesting enough, though, shortly after this conversation took place, I'm laughing because, okay, we got Jamie Lynn. Jamie Lynn's husband's also name is James, but they call him Jamie. And Britney and Jamie Lynn's father's name is Jamie. So here I'm talking about the father, right? I put Big Daddy Jamie. It was like a note to myself to, remember I was talking about the dad. But anyway, so Big Daddy Jamie extended the conservatorship to cover Louisiana, Florida, where she had a place, I believe, and even Hawaii, where Britney would love to go and vacation and go to relax. And she would love to visit. And also, coincidentally, that's also where the conversation with Jamie Lynn and Britney took place about going for 6 months. So it's kind of ironic in a way. It's like, Jamie Lynn, girl, you just legit offer your sister hope and then went and told your daddy and Sam Ingham. At least it appears, because how else would, out of nowhere, they extend the conservatorship to Louisiana, where you said she could live in your shithole, Hawaii, where she told you about all of this information, and it's like her only getaway where she feels safe, and Florida, the only other place that you guys also have a residence. So, because I believe she bought them their own condo in Florida. You can look that up. I don't know that for sure. It's like, girl, bye. You look dumb. Shut up. Why wasn't Jamie Lynn a part of the Free Britney movement is one of the questions that was asked. And she gave support directly to Britney. was her response. She didn't have to go online or march or do walks or do any of that nonsense online when she could just, she was already supporting Britney because she's her sister and she's able to contact her. So what did she need to go on and do all of that? You know, I don't know. If it were my sister and I found this out and like there were people that were concerned about my own sister, I'd be like, girls, what do you know that I don't? Like, fill me in, because I've been ignorant. I admit I've been selfish. And is it really that bad for her? Because what I understand, it's fine. My daddy might be lying to me, you know, so let me know. And like, I'd be on that ship immediately talking about like, free my sister, you know. But she didn't want to do that. She didn't want to do that. She didn't want to make waves. She was daddy's little girl, in my opinion. And she was afraid of Lou Taylor, in my opinion. I think when Britney had the falling out with Lou Taylor, Jamie Lynn's like, oh, okay, well, like, now I can be, you know, Lou's new, you know, Britney. And that's just my opinion. Okay, so Alex asked at one point, how at one point Jamie Lynn knew she was part. Okay, so she asked about how at one point Jamie Lynn knew she was part of the conservatorship. So basically, she pointed out, like, there was a point where you did know that you were part of this conservatorship. And Jamie Lynn gets this stank look on her face, like, wrong. That's what she does. She points her finger. Wrong. Never involved in the conservatorship. Never. Never involved in the conservatorship. Wrong. Okay? And she says she can prove this with legal documentation. I assume she's talking about how she never completed filing the trustee for, or filing as trustee for the boys' trust when Britney asked her that, which we talked about in the first video, from the first part of the interview. She says Britney came to her about being trustee at one point for the boys. But, and there is proof in a document that she never went through with it. And this is what she keeps showing to people. But I believe that was for the boys, though. It says family trust, but the family trust for the boys. So, and that one she didn't end up completing, which I find odd, but she didn't, you know. But her sister asked her, she said she wanted no part of it. And she says that this is because she didn't want part in the conservatorship, but that's not really what this was for, as far as I can see. You know, so this was really just to ensure that the trust for the boys was properly distributed should anything happen to Britney. That, you know, to make sure the kids get their trust fund money if anything happened to Britney, and that nobody else could get their hands on that money. I think basically she didn't want her father to end up with her son's money should anything happen to her. But she a damn lie, okay? Because while she never completed that document at that time, she did eventually become a trustee, and we can see it here. On August 18th, 2020, there is a signed court document stating that Miss Jamie Lynn Spears petitioned the court to deposit trust assets into blocked accounts. Little bit sus. And guess what else? These blocked accounts were with Lou Taylor's investment firm, Stonebridge. Sus as fuck, right? Say it with me. Sus as beep. Jamie Lynn gets emotional when Alex asks about her discontinuing communication with her mom, saying that the reason for it was because she didn't want her mom to keep inserting herself into the conservatorship. Explaining, I don't understand why we were bringing more people into it. And I find it very, very funny that she says we. And this is a quote from her from that interview. I didn't understand why we were bringing more people into it. We. Is that you subconsciously admitting that you were part of the conservatorship? Because you just said we. And we means y'all and me, right? So how did she know her mom was inserting herself in the conservatorship if she wasn't part of it? And why would you say we? I didn't understand why we were going to bring more people into it. Jamie Lynn, honey, you need to just close your mouth. You just keep digging holes. So also, she seems to know what, during this second interview, the first part of the second interview, she seems to know a lot about conservatorships. She goes into how it works with the court system and how you have to check in with the courts and how the courts have to okay everything because the court is the one who did. She, unless she just now started looking into all of this, she seems to know a lot about it when asked. If you straight up ask her, what did she know about this conservatorship? She'll say, nothing. I didn't know anything. But if you say, well, I don't know, does it work where, you check in with this or you did? She will tell you. She will tell you how it works. Because anytime she got a question like that, where it was a little bit more off, whatever, she will get caught up in actually knowing a lot about it. So she talks about Britney having access to her phone, that it was never a problem. Britney always had access to her phone. Her phone wasn't taken from her. She had one. But everyone knows that her phone was being mirrored. So nobody said she didn't have a phone. What we're saying is she didn't have access to a phone that was hers. Because the phones that she had were monitored by everybody, and they even screen mirrored her shit. So everyone knew what she was saying, what was coming in, and what was going out. It was being mirrored. How could Jamie Lynn not know that? When everybody else knows it, how can Jamie Lynn not know it? She knows it. She knows it. Yeah, so I don't know how she didn't know that. I swear, all this girl does is play victim and lie. Like, I don't know what truth comes out of her mouth. And playing the victim is, like, the best role she's ever played. She can't answer a single effing question without throwing in something about her being wronged, too. It's always about, oh, well, I had this too. Oh, I lived there too. Me too. Marsha. I mean, that's what it reminds me of. My goodness. In an interview a while back, Lance Bass of NSYNC, who we all know, NSYNC had Justin Timberlake, which was Britney's ex. Lance Bass, who was friends with Jamie Lynn, said that from what he knew, Jamie Lynn was okay with the conservatorship. So he trusted that everything was good with it and that Jamie Lynn had her sister's back. So whenever he questioned at first what was going on, if Jamie Lynn was okay with it, then it must not be as bad as people are making it out to be. So he trusted Jamie Lynn that it wasn't that huge of a deal. Like hot, but cold at the same time. So, on November 2nd, 2020, Jamie Lynn resigned as trustee of that account. Okay, that most recent account, that Lou Taylor account. So, the next week, on November 11th, 2020, she sends a detailed text to Britney. We'll go into that later on at the end, because she doesn't bring it up until the update. So that's the second part of the interview, second part of part 2. So the update portion of the interview is when we're going to talk about that, when Alex presses her again, pretty like, come on, I'm going to ask you one more time, girl, so we'll get there. So she talks about how at this point now her relationship with Britney is becoming challenging. And she had to protect herself. So here we go again with the victim card. There's a part of the interview where Jamie Lynn is, through tears, talking about how she never mattered. And how she wishes so badly that she would have just mattered. Britney responded to this, actually. Britney responded to this whole interview with a photo dump of her thoughts. And the first one is directly to the part of the interview where Jamie Lynn is crying about not mattering. These next 5 talk about how when Britney would come home, she would be surprised to see how Mama would be catering to Jamie Lynn, making her special chocolate drinks, and how Jamie Lynn treated her mom like shit. How Jamie Lynn would just watch TV all day, go sit out by the pool. This was never Britney's life. She talks about how Justin's family was all she knew for many years, and when she would fly back home, she felt like a ghost. She even talked about how interesting that it was that a 12-year-old got her own Nickelodeon show, saying, she's implying something here. And I know what it is. I don't know if you guys can figure it out, but how a 12-year-old got her own Nick show. She's implying why she probably got that job. And that it's because she's Britney's little sister. That's what I think. I have to admit, the best part of this whole thing is when she said she wasn't strong enough at the time to do what should have been done, to slap you and mama across your effing faces. Except she puts the whole word. She calls Jamie Lynn a selfish little brat. That was funny too, because I'm sorry, this is true. She even takes a small jab at Alex Cooper, referring to her as that interview girl, which Alex must be a little upset about because she jabs back with a post with the banner reading, "Interview girl takes an L," pertaining to her not being able to upload part 2 of the interview. Bringing us to the suspicious technical issue that for some reason took longer than planned to air part 2 of the interview. Now, many have speculated that there was no tech issue at all. That it was the cease and desist that was filed against Jamie Lynn that caused a lot of concern, and that Alex ended up having to go back and completely re-edit part 2. Alex plays it super cool with a post saying, like this one, saying, "It's coming, calm yourselves." However, Alex originally said that the whole unedited interview was over 3 hours long. Yet, when it aired, it was edited down to only 43 minutes. Where's all the shit? Like, where is it all? Like, I want to see all of it. You got 3 hours of details. I want to know them. 43 minutes. And the first half of the interview was only 22 minutes. And the second half of that, of part 2, was the update, which was on a Zoom call. So, what, 22 minutes? 3 hours? And you gave us 22 minutes? Ay. The rest was updated via Zoom. So, this is a little bit sus. Just a little bit. Like, what took so long? During the update portion of the interview, Alex asked if Britney could go on social media and maybe clarify that when she talks about the family and everything that the family did wrong to her, that she doesn't mean Jamie Lynn. That Jamie Lynn was actually helping her out. Because that would clarify all of this, really. Jamie Lynn then gets all weird and then turns to someone off camera asking if she can respond. She said, and they say yes. And so she says, well, Britney's very hot and cold. 1 minute she's sending gifts to the house, and the next she's on social media, starting shit. And I'm blocked, So I don't know. That's how she answered that. So it's like, again, you're making her look nuts again. I mean, same old story, different day. Like, everyone's trying to make Britney look like a crazy person, when at the end of the day, you drove her crazy. I'm sorry, you drove that girl to insanity. That song, "You Drive Me Crazy," was probably about her damn family. So Alex asks if Jamie Lynn has any proof then that she knew nothing about the conservatorship. Which, by the way, I don't know about you, but it's becoming a little bit redundant at this point. How many times can you ask the girl, did you know about the conservatorship? And you're not even like sneaking it in either, And like I said, when she would say things about the conservatorship without actually pointing it at Jamie Lynn would seem to know a lot about how the conservatorship worked. Anyway, you need to be a little sneaky and do a little bit more research, in my opinion. Not that I do the best research, but I don't have my own podcast that someone paid me $60 million for either. Okay, so Jamie Lynn pulls out her phone and goes to a text from November 11th, 2020. This text, this is the text I told you about. That she sent Britney a week after resigning from trustee. This text shows suggestions that she made to Britney regarding the conservatorship. Some things that she was noticing. Alex asked why didn't Jamie Lynn share this earlier, like in part 1 maybe. And Jamie Lynn said she was afraid She was afraid for herself, her personal relationships, and for legal reasons. But that she asked her lawyer if she could share it, and he advised her that she could if she wanted to. And she felt that she had to share it in order to prove that she did in fact try to help Britney. It was never responded to, though, unless the response was deleted. December 2nd, she texted her again, happy birthday, we love you, no response. December 3rd, call me. But like I previously mentioned, Britney did not have full control of her phone. So that could be why there was no response. As for the recent text message, allegedly from Britney, that Jamie Lynn read out loud, it said, I know it's not your fault, and I'm sorry for being so angry with you. Although I'm your big sister, I need you more than you need me, and always have. This text was also in Jamie Lynn's book. So, do with that what you will. Now, my opinion? My opinion. Well, Jamie Lynn keeps bringing up having a voice, and how her voice deserves to be heard too. And how she's standing up and using her voice. And yeah, we get that. She says things like that, like on every platform she's given. She says things like, I just want to show everyone, that it's important to have your voice, and that maybe people can learn from me using my voice, and yada, yada, yada. Well, sweetie, yes. I mean, you're absolutely correct. Everyone is entitled to have a voice, and it's great that you're using yours. The problem here is that you're using your voice to continue to be verbally and otherwise abusive to your sister. You say the book isn't about Britney, yet you mention her 192 times in your book. That's only 200 something pages long. Britney has been chewed up and spit out by everyone she relied on for over 13 years and finally frees herself. And the second she does, here comes Lil Jamie Lynn with a book to exploit her all over again. Why not write about your own story? Your story. Afraid it wouldn't sell? Why? Because everyone you wrote about in your book is calling you a liar? I mean, even Casey Aldridge's sister is calling you out for what you wrote about her brother Casey, aka father of your firstborn. I'm not going to put the name in there. Saying that you kept him from her single-handedly. Yet in the book, I guess she wrote how he was kind of like a deadbeat dad in a way. I mean, I don't know that she used that word. I didn't read the book because I have refused to buy it and give her any money. But she supposedly she really trashes him big time, and basically like he didn't want to be around her, but he fought to see her. She kept that daughter from her father. And one thing I know for a fact, though, that Jamie Lynn is telling the truth about is that she is a Spears too. I mean, we can't deny that. She is a Spears too. She grew up in that environment as well. And I can't imagine that things were much different than she explained when it came to her father and her mother, and kind of how that dynamic worked, and how they were as people, and how they treated her, and how she grew up. But damn, girl, have some tact. Have some respect for your sister and what she went through alone. She went through this alone, and you guys all were vacationing and having your little sit out by the pools. Sit out by the pools. Yes, that's the thing, okay? Google it. Drinking your little chocolate milk and having your just good old time while your sister's literally being like a workhorse. I mean, talk about not mattering. All Britney was to her own family was a paycheck. She had no one. She had no one she could trust. She had no real friends, and her family completely sold her out. They basically pimped her out and are still living off of it. And then Jamie, Big Daddy Jamie, wants to have Britney pay his lawyer fees. Are you kidding me? After all these years of you stealing from your daughter, you think she's supposed to represent you? Oh my goodness. I just can't even. Like, this really irritates me. And it's not like, you know, it's Britney's. It's that someone could do this to their child. That a father could do this to their child. Period. When all Britney did was she said in a couple interviews, she wanted to care for her family. Giving them money was never a problem for her. She bought her mom a house. She was giving them whatever they wanted. She would have given them. There was no reason to take from her. There was no reason to do what they did to her. None. So Jamie Lynn, quit with the fucking crocodile tears. Like, we're all over it. And I get that you're angry, and I get that you're bitter, and I get that you're upset, and you're resentful, and all of these other things. Girl, you need to fucking own up to it and accept it. Own up to your part. You want to fix your relationship with your sister, and you're for real? Own your shit. That's it. That's all I got for you guys today. I got another video coming, another true crime for you, and I will talk to you then. Bye-bye.